They were one of the wild cards at pick 7. A lot of people started to mock anything from edge to receiver to quarterback to tackle, and they end up going Ahmad Mimbu after taking Olu Fashanu last year. So back-to-back years of trying to get the tackle situation figured out there. Um, so they take him 7th overall. What were your thoughts on that?
I love the pick, man. It's the pick I would have made. So that means I like it. I mean, that means I like it. So I mean, yeah, dude. I just think it was the safe pick, dude. Mimbu was
Yeah,
a solid tackle prospect, and listen, Justin Fields needs a good offensive line. If they believe in at all in Justin Fields, which listen, he's not the future. He signed a $10 million a year contract. Like he's not the future, but he's the quarterback right now, and he needs a good offensive line around him. And I like going back to back tackles in the last two drafts, dude. I mean,
yeah.
offensive line is so important. Like we're seeing that across the league. The best teams in the league have the best offensive line play in the league. Or just go look at the result of the Super Bowl, dude. The Chiefs lost that game in part because their tackle play was so poor, and the Eagles just took advantage of that. So listen, I love getting Mimbu. I think he was a safe pick in that situation, and it really just spoke to like they were out of blue chip players at that point, right? That there was no blue
Yeah.
chip players left on the board. All the receiver prospects had question marks. So why not just take the best tackle available?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think bringing in Justin Fields may impact their, how they approach things a little bit, where you have a guy who's prone to making offensive lines look worse with their ability to move. So being able to lock down the other tackle position, and he's an incredibly athletic. I think he was the number one athlete in terms of this tackle class from a production, like from a testing perspective, and then also has the production to back it up. High PFF grades in run blocking and pass blocking, so can do everything. He's immediately going to start and make a difference for them. So I love, Justin Fields probably not your answer for the future, so they may not be even thinking about what matters for him. But having him and Fashanu as your two tackles for whoever your end up franchise quarterback be, whether you draft somebody next year or whatever, I think was a smart play by them. Um, and then they continue with offense in the second round, and take Mason Taylor, who I think ended up being the third tight end off the board, after the two in the first round, which they did get mock Tyler Warren there a little bit at 7. So it's obvious tight end was a thing they wanted. So they grab Mason Taylor there in the second round.
Yeah, dude, I like the Mason Taylor pick. I do. I think he's going to be solid, and like I like filling positions of need, and this is going to be a starter. He's going to plug in right away and start. And getting that in the second round is nice. And I don't think he has a ton of upside, but I would honestly, dude, I would much rather if you need a tackle, I would much rather get Mimbu in the top 10 and go in the turn and get your starting tight end instead of the other way around. Because listen, top 10 tackles are just much more likely to work out than second round tackles. Um, and also going back to the Mimbu, I just want to circle back to him real quick. One interesting thing about him, dude, is he was tackle 2 taken in the class, but a lot of people had him ranked above Will Campbell. And I think that's part of it. They could have possibly gotten the best tackle in the entire class. So I really like their first 2 picks.
Yeah, I like the, on the same page with you in terms of you take the tackle in the top 10 and then you get the tight end later. And they get a guy who played a ton at LSU, but is still pretty young. So there's still a lot of opportunity for him to grow and get better, and have the opportunity to pretty much start immediately for them, at a position that they've kind of lacked for a while now.
Yeah.
And then they get Azareye'h Thomas, corner out of Florida State in the third. Another one of those corners. Just every time we talk about a corner, it's like they went lower than the consensus because this class was so unique. But some really good value with him there in the third, grabbing Azareye'h, who's a 6'2", more of a press guy. That long, kind of that new style of corner that's been happening since Richard Sherman, really, the long, tall corner, who has the opportunity to now, since they lost DJ Reed, to kind of plug in alongside Sauce there.
Yeah, that's an interesting secondary, dude. I mean, 2 guys, which I mean, Sauce hasn't played a ton of press man, but if they want to do that, they want to just have 2 guys that can just be out on islands and play press man coverage. I think they've got 2 really good players to do it, frankly. So, And again, another guy that will probably compete to start. And a great consensus value as well, dude. I think that was kind of the one of our themes in this draft was the value that teams got with this corner
Right.
class because all these corners just had certain question marks, and so the Jets kind of took advantage of that. So really liked him to the third. So yeah, dude. I mean, they really nailed their first three picks. Now after that, I don't actually I'll touch on their fourth round pick, Malachi Moore. I actually really liked that pick. I think again a guy that could possibly play for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a little lower on some boards. I remember doing like uh, the mock draft simulator for PFF, and Trevor had him in like the seventh round. I always picked him up in the seventh round, dude, because I was like, dude, this is a tremendous value. So, but I still think getting him in the fourth is also just solid.
Another one of those guys where like you're looking a year or two ago doing mock drafts and it's an Alabama safety, so everybody's just like, this guy's probably gonna be a first round draft pick. So picking a guy up like that who has, that history of being in Alabama, uh, always worth, not didn't test super well athleticism wise, but I love the value of him in the fourth. And then they paired it with an interesting pick in the fourth, which was Arian Smith, wide receiver out of Georgia. Um, Honestly, not too familiar with the name before this process because we, as Tennessee fans, watch Georgia. You're seeing Dominic Lovett. We saw Ladd last year, but high athlete guy ran a 4.36. PFF had him really low on their board. I think it was a kind of consensus reach of when they took him. So a bit of a betting on his athleticism. Basically, they saw something they liked there and they took a shot on it. So trying to add a little speed to that offense.
Didn't love that pick. He has a drop issue, like a massive
Yeah,
drop problem. He had 10 drops last year. He had like a 20% drop rate. I mean, that cannot
it's not good.
play. That can't play. So that pick, you are betting on the upside in a big way because he doesn't know how to catch the ball, dude. And I mean, we've gotten burned in the past of like liking guys who get open, but they just can't catch. Like that's a pretty important part of being a receiver, man. Like it's what made Larry Fitzgerald great, right? He just never dropped passes. So that's, I mean, pretty crucial part of the position. And it's something that typically, like if a guy has an issue with it, just doesn't get better. Like you just know how to catch or you don't kind of deal. And he really doesn't. So, but I mean, fourth round pick, athleticism, like athletic guy. It's not like it's the worst pick in the world. I think there's probably better receivers left on the board.
Yeah.
I know that Stanford receiver. How do you say his last name?
Minor.
Yeah, the Titans got him in the fifth round, so he was available. I would have much rather had a guy like that in the fourth, but that's I mean one bad pick out of their picks isn't so bad, I think. But and who knows, he might work out with the athleticism.
Yeah, the drop part is interesting because, like, you only get so many when you draft a guy with speed. You probably only have a handful of moments during the season where you're going to have that shot to take, and if they drop 1/5 of them, and the other ones are contested, it's a little tough. So, and one thing that doesn't get talked about a ton, it gets talked about with quarterbacks all the time, but not receivers, especially, is the ball difference, right? Like the NFL ball is bigger than a college football, and that
So
doesn't
it's
get
not going
talked
to
about
get
either.
easier.
When exactly, so like when translating that to the NFL, like your hands, it's going to be more of a problem probably. So, but we'll see. I mean, he's got the athleticism. So Josh Allen, or sorry, Justin Fields has got a pretty good arm, so he can launch him a few deep balls, give him a
They'd
couple
like
chances.
Josh Allen, wouldn't they? Man,
They
they
would,
would love
yeah.
to have Josh Allen. Sorry, Jets
Oh,
fans.
yeah. And then they round out the fifth round with a linebacker out of Miami, another kind of athletic guy. And then Tyler Barron, double up with Miami there in the fifth round to wrap up their draft, former Vol. Um, Decent value on him. He's more of a, not quite the athletic type. He's a bit bigger, 6'5", 250. Never played to me that like he was that athletic. Was always a bit more of a power guy. But they could use the edge depth though, for sure. So solid pickups there in the fifth round.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Barron's decently productive, so I don't know how they got in those sixth or seventh round picks. I don't know if that was part of a trade up or what, but overall, dude, this Jets draft was good to me. I mean, they got 3 to 4 potential starters, and I think they just again, they didn't overthink their top 10 pick. I think they did the right thing with it. It doesn't mean Mimbu's guaranteed to be good. He's not the cleanest tackle prospect of all time, but I think they did the right thing with their first couple of picks, and I think that's what matters the most. So, yeah, solid draft for the Jets.
Yeah, I think they actually they came into it was 2/6, and I think they gave them up. They did trade up, I think, for Malachi Moore.
Hmm.
I think is when they traded up. So I think they gave up some there, and then they leave with some interesting capital. So they got like 4 6th-round picks next year,
Dang.
a couple fourths, but then they have a first, then no third round. So I could see them trying to do some moves to potentially get a little bit more capital for a team that is still kind of now in a rebuild mode.
No
Um,
doubt.
yeah. So what was your favorite pick for the Jets?
I'm gonna go Mimbu in the first round, dude. I
All right.
think they could have messed this pick up. They really could have. They could have went for the flashy receiver play, or overdrafted a quarterback, or there's a lot, or tight end. They could have went tight end. I mean, I don't
True.
think a lot of people would have blamed them if they took Tyler Warren. A lot of people thought Tyler Warren was the best overall player available, but again, kind of reiterating what we said earlier, the top 10 tackle is just so much more likely to work out than the top 10 tight end. And the second round tackles don't work a lot. So I just like taking it in the order they did.
Yeah, I like that. I'd go Azareye'h then. I think getting a guy who can come in and potentially, a long corner that can come in and compete to start early on as a third round pick is solid value. So love that pick for them. What does Renee Bugner's composite say
Very solid
for the
draft
Jets?
for the Jets. They have him, they're ranked second highest in this division at 13 overall in
Okay.
the NFL. So really solid draft for them. And I agree with this one, man. I think they really nailed it.
I think one thing I would add that surprised me with this class when talking about the others that surprised, they did not take a quarterback.
That is
Um,
surprising.
that stood out to me, and a lot of these teams we thought would, they did. However, that was one of the UDFA's I wanted to point out. They had two very interesting ones, but still surprised they didn't draft one. So they are at least riding the Justin Fields thing out for this season for the next. Well, they signed him for 2 years, but we'll see. I think they can easily get out of the contract next year with the way they structured it. So the plan may just be Justin Fields draft a quarterback next year, but they get Brady Cook. So they signed Brady Cook, quarterback from Missouri, coming off an injury, started for like 3 years, I think, at Missouri. Played really well, led them to a New Year's Six bowl win over Ohio State a couple years ago, but got hurt this past season and missed some time, so he ended up going undrafted. So they get him in there to compete for a backup job, and then Donovan Edwards, running back from Michigan, NCAA
Cover
cover,
athlete.
yeah, cover athlete going
I knew you were
undrafted,
gonna go
five
there,
star.
dude. I knew you were
I
gonna go
know.
there.
But anyway, that'll be an interesting guy to throw in there because they're another team
Uh,
that I think people were expecting to add some running back depth as well that didn't.
True.
Um, so
Some people had them taking Genty. I mean,
yeah,
that
which is
was in
crazy to me.
consideration.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
with
agree.
Brees and Braylon Allen who played really well. So, but they get Donovan in there to compete. Probably, to be honest, I think he can make the roster with a lot of the guys they have in there that are a bit older. But
Also think Brady Cook will make the roster. That is an interesting
yeah,
one. They
yeah,
probably a guy they would have considered drafting if they had a seventh round pick. That's maybe they didn't love the value of a quarterback before like the sixth or seventh round. But I will say, and I get the teams that didn't draft Shadur, I kind of get it. Like because you don't really want your backup kind of taking so much attention. But man, I would have loved the Jets draft if they would have drafted Shadur in the fourth or fifth round, like before the Browns got him. I just would have absolutely loved that because I think they probably should have taken a shot on a quarterback. And now again, they got Brady Cook, undrafted free agent, so they didn't have to spend any capital on that. But getting a guy like Shadur in the fourth round would have been really fascinating. So yeah, I get it. I get why they didn't, but at the same time, would have loved to see that.
yeah. And they got Tyrod Taylor on as a backup right now, and then they have Adrian Martinez is the other one signed right now, quarterback from Kansas State from last year. So could easily see him getting cut and them
Yeah.
keeping Brady Cook around. Um, so that wraps up the Jets 2025 class.